What do we say to the god of death?
Oh, hello!
Alright, hello and welcome to another YOGU. So today we're going to be talking about the Galatine Prime again. As we all know, this weapon is insanely powerful, but my builds have kind of changed a bit, and there's a new build, so I figured it would be a good time to go over this weapon again, as it is one of the most powerful weapons in the game, and for good reason. The first build we're going to look at is going to be the Elemental build. This, like my other OGUs, this is just the updated version of that exact same build, and this is still totally fine for using, but I will say that this build is not the one that I usually use when I'm going to use the Galatine anymore. I now use its slash-focused build. This build may look somewhat familiar because it is only one mod away from just being my Atarax build. So, for similar reasons to why the Atarax is built that way, this is built this way. Because massive slash damage pretty much murders anything that exists. It's worth noting that for survivability reasons, you could remove Organ Shatter and put in Life Strike. You would lose damage, but of course gain a lot of survivability on a Warframe like Excal. But I don't really think I'm going to need to do that. Also, it's worth noting you could remove Weeping Wounds too. Weeping Wounds and Organ Shatter probably about the same on the priority list of remove. But yeah, this does a lot of fucking damage. And for this test, I'm not going to remove one for Life Strike because usually the enemies will die before my Excal will die. So yeah, let's show what this can do. And then we're going to show a much higher level test so that you can get a feel for it on, let's say, enemies that you're not going to fight. Like, nearly 0% chance that most people are going to fight the level of enemies that I'll spawn for the second test. But our basic test at level 50. And also, part of what goes into this is the massive damage bonus you get for using Cleaving Whirlwind. And of course, this weapon does have momentum, which is absolutely fucking outstanding. And these enemies are, of course, just gonna get absolutely fucking evaporated by this shit. Yeah. Like, one tick of the slash proc is almost enough to kill anything in this test. Actually, most things in this test. So yeah, a little bit of overkill in terms of the damage here. But we're gonna show a higher level test. But Excal, I'll be honest, this test Excal is for your kind of normal level tests, ending at about level 80. I would not build Excal the way that I do for higher tests than that. So we're going to show this with like a survival Warframe, and I didn't want to go too crazy with it, so we're going to go with Wukong. Wukong is basically, he's just super health. He's not like CC immune and all that stuff. If we wanted to go like real crazy, the far stupid bullshit end of making this test a joke, we could just take Rhino and I could hit 3 and 2 and then this test would be over. But yeah. So we're going to go with Wukong as to only really have the survivability and not much else. And we're going to bump this test up to the maximum level that I can. If I could, I would wait and put this at level 150, but unfortunately, I can't on level 150s yet. But yeah, you're gonna see that this build don't care. Because of the slash damage, you can pretty much murder anything. As long as it's vulnerable to slash damage, if you proc slash, it's gonna die. And like, even for enemies that aren't vulnerable to slash, it has a lot of raw. There's like a good amount of raw damage here. So you're gonna get what you're gonna get. And there's the momentum there. Just power right through that shit. And you can see, like, the moment I get a slash proc, like, it's now evaporation time. Like, once it gets slash proc, it's over. Or sometimes even before. Yeah, you can, like, the slash proc just obliterates. Like, with the 300% damage multiplier on the spins from Cleaving Whirlwind, with the intense amount of speed from Fury and Berserker together, things can't live through it. They just can't. They don't, and they won't. Comparatively, I'm going to show the Elemental build now, and this Elemental build is an anti-armor build. And this one does have Life Strike in it. You know what? I'm actually going to take a second, and we're going to switch that out. Forgot I had tempo on there for fun. There we go. Now we can do the test. You can see how much slower the startup is. You can see how the enemies that are immune to the slash proc. Yeah, you can see why. Here, we're gonna get rid of these ancients here. Like, this does good damage. This is totally fine damage. Like, this is absolutely perfectly acceptable. But yeah, you can see why I might be using the slash build to get through a lot of things. Because the slash build is just so much more effective. Because, like, even in this scenario, like, the slash build is going to be, or the slash procs are going to be doing a massive chunk of my damage. The other build just kind of triples down on that. But yeah, still a really, really strong weapon in both forms, of course. But I did want to make this video to point out just how much stronger this build is. Because of its slash focus, because this is essentially a shorter range Atarax that does more damage. Real fucking strong. But yeah, that is the Galatine Prime, and I'll see you guys tomorrow.